what I wanted to start with about was going back to your childhood, if that's not too Freudian, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I was quite interested, if you'd always considered yourself Canadian, because obviously being born in Austria, whether you feel that original connection has kind of influenced your career or your outlook generally.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that like the first 14 years of my life in Vienna like molded me to the person I am now, with being raised like literally in a convent, like
really.
Yes, it was like with nuns and priests, and I was there like when you go to school they march you across, and like altar boy and church music and everything. I think when you're that young, your brain is really soft and open, and everything that happens in that era like makes you the person you are. By the time you're 14 when we moved to Canada,
Did you carry any of that childhood over to Canada, or was that a complete
restart? I'm still that person. No. I mean, the only thing maybe is like in Canada, I let my hair down more, because all of a sudden they went to a public school and kids were smoking and they had long hair, listening to rock and roll. And this place, no, that just didn't, it just didn't happen. So, so I found this new sense of freedom and thought, this place is okay. And I think Austria is really an old-fashioned place. They still dwell on the whole Mozart and tourism and chocolates. And Canada's definitely like an open-minded new territory. Hence, like our first band, Skinny Puppy. But yeah, I think the whole. Like in some of my lyrics and the way I am as a person and the whole musical environment and art, I think that definitely came from Austria,
Yeah, because I was going to wonder, when you were growing up, was there much of a musical influence in the family? Did you get influence from your parents? Did they listen to music? Were you studying music?
My mom had a really beautiful voice, and so she would sing to me when I was young. She knew all these classical, like, type of songs, small songs she would sing to me. But actually when I was, they made us learn an instrument when we were in the convent, so I started playing the violin. So, I think all that kind of added to the persona of like, at least being open to music, and having that in the back of your mind, But it wasn't really till I heard Wire and Joy Division and Kraftwerk that I really got inspired, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I don't want to do Wagner. I want to do Kraftwerk.
So was it when you relocated to Canada that you really stared buying and getting into music?
Well,
was it just an age thing? That just coincided with
it just the freedom, the sense of freedom. It just became like Canada such a new frontier. Hello, that it just kind of and it's still like that. Anything's possible there, in old Austria, nothing's possible, if you're not born into a class, into money and stuff, you're going to be a waiter, but in Canada, like, there's still the opportunities, the wild frontier, the Wild West, build a house, buy a piece of land, and just like you see in those westerns, that's still like, there's still aspects of that there, so it's not for everybody, but I find it rather exciting,
So tonight we're in London, and this is the penultimate night of the tour, I think. Is that right to say? Glasgow tomorrow is the last one?
Yes.
Yeah. How's the tour been?
Well, it's like, I guess that's what the ins and outs of music. It's like this tour. I mean, I can't speak for tonight, but all the other shows, we've pretty much doubled our audience from the last time we were here, and so like every night's been full or near capacity, and we started off with in Russia, and it was packed. We had like 800 people. Then we had Mara Luna, we had the hangar. They said there was 8,000 people, and people couldn't get in. So I think the new record has a lot to do with it. I don't know why all of a sudden we're kind of cool again, or if maybe the whole scene is sort of, it's hard to say, but we're definitely in an upswing, or maybe it's because we've been around long enough, some people, God knows, but we haven't had this kind of response to an album in a long time.
That's a good album.
So it.
And what about performing live? Do you look forward to it, or do you find it a bit daunting?
No, like this way is super exciting. Come to Europe, play 11 shows, hit like all the great cities and a couple of really good festivals. Give it everything you got, and I think there's that's kind of enjoyable, you know,
Yeah.
like rather than like, you know, those grinding tours where you play every place one night it's great, next day.
Yeah.
So I think this way is great, you know,
And you mentioned that kind of the relationship with the fans, because you've got some very long standing. There's some
Yeah.
very dedicated fans
Yes.
with a Mind Phaser website and all that sort of stuff.
I think for us it was a build this time, you know, we did a thing called AirMac.
Yeah.
And that seemed to really resonate strongly with people, young and old, and you know, like the game company Carbon Games out of Seattle, like it did really well for him. And then you know we thought, hey, you know, like let's just continue that onto the Frontline record, you know, with you know there's some dubstep elements, not as you know like in all these new sounds, and we just experimented and you know, there was a few people that maybe said, oh, this isn't EBM, but 99% loved it, and so I guess we just found ourselves in a really good
I was going to ask you about
space, you know?
how you got that soundtrack. I mean, it's kind of self-evident as to why FLA would do a soundtrack to a game, and you've done stuff for Quake and things like that in the past.
Yeah.
But I was curious as to actually how it came about. Was it just one
The
of
guy
those?
was just a fan, you know, James Green and his partner. The last game they did was a huge, it was called My Fat Little Princess. And you know, like online games are huge business now, right? This one was all about feeding the princess who's just so fat till she dies. But they just called me and said, like, you know, we were a fan and do you want to do this? And we got together and they were super open to it and we just, you know, we just got it and just kept rolling with it. So I think both those albums helped build for this tour and people in the anticipation, you know, and also like the fact that we might do like a big, you know, a grand tour with Skinny Puppy as literally a double bill in North America in February for 28 shows, and a lot of people seem to be really excited about that. You know, the Godfathers of Industrial. Like,
it's really,
you know, the fact that I was in the band and there was some bad blood, and now it's all good. And
it's
you
a
know,
classic story, isn't it?
Yeah, and you got all these fans like my band's better than your band, but the main thing is they all show up. You know, you're gonna have like 1,500 people a night, and it'll be. So that's kind of.
So is that confirmed yet?
Well, it's not confirmed, but Dave, the president from Metropolis, wants it to happen, and so does everybody. It's just we're down to like fine details to whether, but that would be another thing that I would be interested in doing, even though like long tours, that would be well worth it, you know. If you can, I figured now if you're gonna do it, make it count, you know, either do all the big cities and even our tour here, like having How Job along, you know, I wanted to have a band that I really like, and you know, it's obviously costing us some money, but I think that helped. I don't take all the credit. That helped also as well for all the good turnouts, you know, and it just makes it maybe more fun when you show up every night and there's a bunch of people around, you know.
I was going to ask you about rebuilding, if you like, if that's not too overstating it, the live team around Jeremy and Jared in 2010, and how that's kind of given you any kind of new energy, new insights, and sort of opened you perhaps to other music.
You know, who knew? Because, you know, like, both of those guys were actually Chris Peterson, you know, I used to work with. They were his friends, and, you know, they were both, I think, 21 or 22. And we needed some players, and like, so when we did a tour, and they came with us, and then over the last 8 years and 3 albums, it's just, you know, like, they're almost 30 now. I mean, it's just evolved. And to where, like, you know, all of a sudden we're doing Airmech and Echogenetic, and people are saying it's our best record since Tactical or maybe ever, and it's like, you don't even think about it, you know, it was just such a natural involvement, and our friendship grew, and so now they're just part of it, you know,
and has that kind of changed?
They actually grew up listening to, like, they said, yeah, when we were in high school, we loved listening to Fear Factory and Frontline. It was our thing, and, you know, it's kind of ironic, and then they end up being in the band. It makes me feel really old, but at the same time, really good, you know, that, like, we're going to keep passing the torch to somebody else down the road, you know. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I was just saying, with the amount of kind of experience and output you've got under your belt, how you approach writing, you know, would come up with ideas for the new album. Did it? Because the kind of opening track almost segues from the last Airmech into this one. It seems to be like a connection.
Yeah, like I said, it was like a natural flow. You know, that was a great warm up to what we needed. You know, like, because we used all these new techniques of dubs. You know, like not dub, but chaining. You know, chaining bass lines and so forth, and that all comes from that sort of genre. And so when we finally got a foothold with that, it just seemed like a natural progression. And also, like, it's a real luxury right now because Jeremy has a friend named Sasha who's really a total gear nerd, and he's just excited to be part of it, and you know, he makes sounds, and so we have his camp, and then Jarrett and Craig have their camp, and I jump in between both, and we get together every few weeks, and because there's only so much room on a CD, it became kind of competitive to see whose songs would make the cut, and then we would exchange files because some people are better doing it than others. So it was like a real luxury. We've never had 5 people working on a Frontline album, and it took us 6 months. I set a deadline. Let's not waste a year or two, like, deciding where, how. Let's just do it the way we see it. And in the old days, it was just me or Reese, and then it was a lot of work, or me or Chris. So having 5 real gearhead nerd guys and me overseeing the whole thing, it was like, yeah, I could do another one. Just the same way, it would be great. That to me was kind of fun and enjoyable and easy, and a little bit of friendly competition, you know.
I just wanted to go slightly off on a tangent, but I was interested to get your views on the whole NSA leaking and all that sort of thing with Snowden, and I just wondered if you had a kind of, is it just kind of inevitable, or what your thoughts on that were?
Well, I think we had a couple other people like ask us online through the Russian thing, but we didn't want to comment because that was our first show. Like,
very sensible.
And they're really sensitive about all that. I don't know. I guess there's always going to be. I guess there's always going to be people that know too much, and if they ever like, I guess the whole concept of the statement about like in America, like every conversation is listened to and recorded to, and most people don't mind, to give up some privacy for security, but where do you draw the line, and so forth, and it goes from there, and I don't know. It's but isn't even in England here in London? Isn't there cameras everywhere?
Yeah.
Like, is there a chance you're being recorded when you walk down the street?
Totally.
Yeah. So
all the time.
So is there anything to really worry about? I can't believe the Americans want to. They want to execute that guy, right?
It's crazy.
Right. I don't. I guess somebody's always going to be have information like that, right? But do you think that guy could bring anybody down with all that info? Like, maybe it's good that people know, right? But at the same time, maybe it's not really good to like compromise an entire nation of security, right? Because that's what they're afraid of, aren't they? And like, you can't. If you can't trust the people that you're hiring, then I don't know. But it's such a global village now. Like, everything's connected. Like, when there's a ride in Egypt, or whether there's something in London, to like Vancouver. Does all this kind of stuff influence the writing at all? In lyrics, perhaps? Yeah, definitely. I think I've always sort of like taken like whether it's been, my main theme's always been like technology. We're damn with it, we're damn without it, and there's no going back. And I'm fascinated by everything that does go on in the world. And but I have to say, this record for the most part is the first time the main theme for my lyrics were mostly about mortality. I'm getting older. I'm starting to think more about, who, why, what. Is there anything I want to still do? And I thought those were, for me, very personal. I don't think I've ever, dared to express stuff that I kind of fear or think or what. But I thought maybe now's a good time, to start being about things that I really mean, because you never know how long I'm going to do it or whatever. And so some of the lyrics are kind of melancholy about the people I've known, things that have come and gone in my life, and things I wish didn't, or I'm not saying there's any regrets, but but mortality. I think, don't we all face that?
We sure do.
It's like I don't know if it's a real obvious subject or something, and yet I don't want it to be depressing either, But a sense of realism sometimes isn't so bad, right? Ian Curtis probably did it better than anybody, right? It's like,
I just wondered what you do to kind of relax, switch off, chill out when you're not active in the music industry, really. I mean, you're living in Canada, which has got a lot of stuff on your doorstep. Do you
Right.
take advantage of that?
Well, you know, I do. I used to be a big. I have a few cars, and I actually have like my prized possession. I have a 1994 Land Rover Defender, a green one, and it's like brand new, right? It's in mint shape, and
Green, that's the colour to have it in as well.
yeah, it's awesome, and it's like I love, you know, like I live in North Vancouver, and behind me, all you can see is mountains, and on weekends we used to love just taking all our friends, people who had dogs, and we would just pack lunches, and we would just disappear into the forest, into trails, and hike up rivers and stuff, and oh, did it stop?
No, we're okay.
Right.
Sorry.
You know, and that was like, you know, a real favorite pastime, the thing I meant to do, like just go hiking. It's really an outdoor place, right? Ski in the winter, mountain biking, you know, I do all that stuff. I like to really be active and stay fit, and love movies, art, literature, you know, like things that are like interesting to me, and so.
You can't do a lot of that stuff in Austria.
Well, no, well, I guess you can, but you know, it's so classified, it's so classist there, you know, like everything's so expensive, you know, like it's just so much more affordable, like.
What's the chocolate cake like in Canada? Is that decent enough? Do you miss that from home?
I don't eat chocolate cake, you know. I don't know, I'm not really, and you know, I love my favorite thing to do is get up in the morning, have a huge coffee, turn on my laptop, put on a CD or two, listen to the full thing by a new artist, and just, you know, my environment around me. I have this huge yard with my house, and there's birds and there's trees, and the sun's hitting, and that to me, it's the simple pleasures of life, which I really like. You know, it has like there's no cars, there's no nothing, you know, it's like just stuff like that, you know.
Sounds great.